behalf of Namita Gokhale, William Dalrymple, and all of us at Teamwork Arts, we wish you a Merry Christmas and welcome you back to a new session of JLF's Brave New World. Our magazine partner for the series is The Week, Journalism with a Human Touch. Our session today is Into the Wild with Mattias Klum. Mattias Klum in conversation with Janhavi Prasada. Mattias Klum's prolific career began with being one of the youngest contributors to National Geographic in the 1990s. Celebrated for his aesthetic photographic language, he has since contributed to multiple articles and cover stories for the magazine and is the co-author of books such as The Human Quest, Prospering Within Planetary Boundaries, and Big World, Small Planet, Abundance Within Planetary Boundaries. In conversation with writer and activist Janhavi Prasada, he discusses his journeys into these different worlds. Mattias Klum is an artist, photographer, and film producer. In an artistic way that is entirely his own, he describes and portrays animals, plants, and natural and cultural settings in the form of articles, books, films, lectures, and exhibitions. Since 1997, Klum has produced multiple articles and 13 cover stories for National Geographic magazine. He has produced 11 documentary films and published 14 books to date. Janhavi Prasada is the festival director of Himalayan Echoes, Kumaon Festival of Literature and Arts, and a published author on Mahatma Gandhi. She dedicates her time to the conservation and promotion of literature, music, local textiles, local foods, heritage, monuments, environment, and wellness in Uttarakhand. She also works as a peace activist in the field of technology and is the co-founder of a spice brand, White Mountain Collectives. All our sessions that have been broadcast till now are available on our Facebook page, JLF Lit Fest, and on our YouTube channel, Jaipur Lit Fest JLF. Please do comment by typing it in the comment section. Ladies and gentlemen, we now present Into the Wild with Mattias Klum. Over to you.
Thank you, Sanjay, for that wonderful introduction for Mattias and myself. So here we are. Mattias is right here with us in rather odd circumstances because we have to e-meet these days rather than meet personally, especially under a forum which is like the Jaipur Literature Festival. But Mattias, the show must go on, and let's take it forward from here. So I'm sitting here in Nainital up in the mountains north of India, and it is freezing here. It's the peak of winter. I'm presuming you are in Sweden. Where are you exactly?
Actually, I'm not. I'm in Spain at the moment. So I'm in between Alicante and Valencia, and it's winter here as well. But it's as always pretty mild. So it's 16 to 18 degrees Celsius. Sun is shining, and it's not very Christmas-like, but very pretty.
Oh, that's lucky you. And tell me, Mattias, how has the pandemic really been for you? For us in India, it's really been tough because of the sheer numbers, and we all are lucky. The people who have country homes, they've moved up to the mountains or to the beaches and leading their lives peacefully. Leaving the cities. For you, how has it been?
It has been tough. I mean, I have my wife's father, for example, has been very ill, but we are fortunate because no really close friends or family members has been has died or had huge problems, but it is something that affects us all because it's definitely a shared dilemma. And as a Swedish citizen, we have had enormous problems in society, increasingly actually. And in Spain, where I'm at now, has also been very difficult, especially in Barcelona and Madrid, where we are right now. It's pretty mild, but still it can be felt, of course.
Sure. And what has been your regimen during this pandemic? For me, it was just a bit of writing, actually a lot of writing. I managed to finish the manuscript of one of my books for Kumau. But for you, how has it been? Did you manage to step out, do some photography, which is your passion?
Yeah, well, we have also done some writing. My wife and I, we've worked together in an artist duo, Alexandra Klum, and we've been writing as well, but also been able to, step outside and do some work. And I think it's a good time to contemplate, even though it's a tough time, as we said, it's a great time to contemplate and, in a way, philosophically speaking, look inwards as well as outwards. So I think it has been a big change for us professionally and also in private life. But I think in a way for the better. I think, and this is a bit controversial to say, perhaps, but with all the respect for all the suffering and all the huge challenges that we are facing, I think in a way, the good thing about it, if there's a good thing, is really the way we can relate to the transience of life and in a way, perhaps retie our knot to each other and to nature itself.
Yes. And where you really come from, which is Sweden, and I've been to Sweden twice. It is the land of pure air. It's pristine, and you can't help it but be around nature. So that is really your life. In comparison to that, we are in India, which is chaotic, and it's got its quiet spaces and the noise as well. So we really feel the quiet, the clean air. The lakes the waters are all clean now. The animal habitat is all out, especially where I am. The footfall, the leopards are all out, the pheasants are out. You don't see them. The other day I was sitting by my window ledge and a pine marten just sort of walked
Oh,
past,
wow.
which
Nice.
is a rarity. Anyhow, so that's that. But coming to you, Matthias, again, you are a renowned photographer. And I have, in the last 2 days, just been going through all your work. Tell me exactly how wildlife photography sort of fell into your domain. Because from one of my researches, I found out that you started with being a musician. You were drumming away, and then suddenly the switch happened. How did it all fall into place? How did this calling happen?
Well, I think it might be the same as for you. It's something that it's a calling. It becomes a passion. And as a young boy, I borrowed my father's camera. He had a very simple camera. It was a mechanical camera with just you set the aperture and the shutter speeds on your own, and no autofocus, no electronics really. So, and I said, "Can I please borrow it?" And he said, "Yes, you may borrow it if you're careful." And so I went out into the wilds near our summer cabin in Dalarna, Sweden, and I fell in love. I fell in love with the aspect of bringing something back from adventures in nature, or just from seeing tiny details, maybe textures, lights, shapes, and sometimes when it worked out photographically, I could bring back that sensation that I felt. And to me, that I couldn't dream of a better hobby to begin with, but then a passion for life professionally as well.
Wonderful, wonderful. Tell me something. You were 29 years old, and you were in the forests in Borneo, maybe hanging from some tree, when a wonderful news came about one of your photographs being featured in the front cover. Tell us about that.
Oh, yeah, that was good fun. Actually, I during the years 1995 and 96, feels like a gazillion years ago, I had a 14-month expedition into the third largest island on the planet, Borneo, in Southeast Asia. And so I had 1.5 metric tons of equipment, 4 assistants, and we ventured into, to us, the unknown, to build blinds and hides up in the canopy of these enormous, gigantic dipterocarp trees. And it was on assignment for quite a reputed American magazine called the National Geographic magazine. And that was my first big assignment for them. And I remember a friend of mine at National Geographic gave me a call and he said, Mattias, you owe us a party. And I didn't understand what he was talking about. So I said, what do you mean? Do I owe you a party? What a strange thing to owe someone. He said, you don't understand, Mattias, you owe us a cover party. And then I realized, aha. So I had been granted to have my picture from this long assignment on the cover of National Geographic. And to me, it was a wonderful dream come true, but it was more importantly, a way for me to tell this story that I cherished in my heart about this primordial, beautiful, diverse rainforest on the cover of a magazine that reaches many people.
Yeah, tell us about the silver-leaf langur, because back here where I am, every morning on my chestnut trees, horse chestnut trees, there are langurs, the gray langurs.
Yes, yes.
But this one is different.
Yeah, this is different. I love your gray langurs as well, and the sound and how they interact, and they're incredible. These are slightly different. They are smaller, and they're called silver leaf monkey, and they are also interacting in a beautiful way, and they are also in this similar way of the gray langur, you know, on top of trees, signaling for predators like leopard and other things. So you can hear them far away, and if you can read their behavior and you can listen in, tune into nature, that will give you some shortcuts and sometimes some great experiences and sometimes good pictures as well. But it sounds marvelous that you have them right outside your window. That's incredible.
They are.
That's amazing. We have to come and visit you. I hear that.
Coming back, so you're being very modest about this cover shot. It was the first in your career, but really, I mean, it's not so easy. You spent about 14 months in the forest in Borneo.
Yes.
So tell us typically what is it to be a photographer like your stature and to get that perfect picture when you're in assignment? What does it really take? How much of the mental and the physical toil, concentration, internalizing, getting used to the natural habitat? How does that work for you, and how does it affect you?
Well, firstly, I think when you pick your own projects, sometimes a magazine like National Geographic might call you and propose an assignment. They think you might be the right photographer because of your skill sets, your photographic language, and the way you tell a story. Or you might, on your own, pitch, as they say, a story where you have dreamt up something you want to talk about or tell. In this case, it came from me because I had been to Borneo earlier in my life when I was 20 years old and when I was 23, and I loved the place, and it was such a challenge to see if I could visualize this incredible space. And so they gave me this long assignment, and what it really takes, I think, is there are many ingredients. You first of all, being hopefully good photographer, of course, is foundation, but you also need to do a lot of research, because if you don't know enough about the place, about the creatures you might find, what it sounds like, what it smells like, what you need to prepare yourself, you don't understand what you're up against, or actually it's not up against, it's what you are with. Because the more you are in tune with the forest, the better you are prepared to listen and open your mind. I think the result will be gifts from nature. It sounds a bit strange perhaps, but to me, in my experience at least, it has really helped. The softer I get, the more open-minded I get, the better it is, the result. The more forceful I am, the more green, if I may say so, in my energy, the more will-powered I am. It's not necessarily that nature will open up and be generous. So there's so many different things. And then you have all the practical things, like if you get 1.5 metric ton of equipment into a forest, how do you go about it? How do you go about having a hot air balloon in the forest? How do you maintain the cameras clean and healthy and yourself? So there's just it's like being a chef in a good restaurant, I think. There are many things to to keep in mind.
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, you have a very, a distinct style of photography, which has a lot of emotion in it, from what I could sense when I was looking at, the polar bear with its child, and with the baby polar bear, and with the lion cub and the mother, the lion upside down lion rather. You have to tell us about that story. That's brilliant. Even reptiles, I'm not too fond of reptiles, but even your neon green colored reptiles, they have this spark in their eye that you really captured. And some of them are pretty humorous as well. The one which is giving a high five, the iguana.
Yeah.
So your pictures do speak a lot, and especially to children. I would say they really would speak a lot to children. But tell me, does that, how do you bring that emotion out of the animal? How do you capture it? How do you know which is the right moment? And in some sense, I feel I've heard a couple of your talks as well. You too share that wit, that sarcasm, that humor that comes out in your pictures. And when you talk, you're very expressive with your eyes, your emotions. You can mimic the animal in some sense. So somewhere I feel you are a part. You reflect each other, the subject and the object. Can you elaborate a bit on that?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you. I think that was a beautiful description of what I try to achieve. And when it comes to the actual photography sessions, I might have a wish list of things that I would love to have in the bag as I leave an assignment and go back to base camp. But I think when magic happens, it's really in between the checked boxes, because you might have a preconception. You might be so preconceived when it comes to what picture would be the ideal picture that you miss out of that magic, again, if you're not open enough, because you might want this crystal clear, sharp, perfect image of something that you have maybe even seen before, because as a human being, we are masters of redundancy. We all the time, it's easy to copy, it's hard to create something new. So I myself, I really try very hard to check the boxes of the obvious. But I think the best pictures I've ever taken are the ones that end up attracting my attention in between the checked boxes, if you understand what I'm trying to say. And that is when magic can happen, when you have a second of, you have, for example, the silverleaf monkey on the cover of National Geographic. I had a gazillion photographs of it, crystal clear, sharp, afternoon dead, beautiful light, or morning light. But then one evening, I had this golden, Asian, wonderful as, this golden light just coming through the canopy. And I had many leaves filtering this incredible face. So it became golden. The whole silver leaf monkey became a golden leaf monkey just because of that light. And that was, to me, the essence of my own experience what really, when I feel the smell of Borneo, the Bornean forest, I can look at that photograph and I can get that sensation back. And it's also very personal, of course, but to me, that's what it takes.
Wonderful. So in all your sort of travels, photography, film, which part of the world, and I believe you've gone to more than 100 countries and 40 times to Borneo, which is your favorite, but after Borneo, which wild habitat is the most appealing to you?
Oh, well, it's hard for me to say that Borneo is the favorite, because I have so many favorites, and I think I love diversity, and that's one reason I really am drawn to India, because, as you know, of course, better than I do, it's the subcontinent, the country of diversity, cultural, religious, biodiversity, all sorts of diversities. So I have always loved working in India, and there's so much to see and so much to do, and so I've also gone for my own strange roller coaster ride of my life has taken me to just being, from the very beginning, just doing nature and wildlife. But then in the early 90s, I started doing more of people, of ethnic minorities, and also relating to climate change and sustainability. And to me, it's more of a holistic approach than actually necessarily one species or one ecosystem. And so I'm very drawn to this more zoomed out vision. And to me, it becomes more relevant as well, because we're 7.8 billion people on the planet, and we're obviously here to stay. So in order for us to live harmoniously together in the future, we need to understand the prerequisites and the limitations of the planetary boundaries on this incredible planet. And I love to try to work that into my photography.
Yes. Well, yes, I mean, and what you just said reflects a lot in your compositions, be it wildlife, be it mammals or birds, or even just nature shots and portraits of people. It does. I think every photograph of yours is so intense, and it has a deeper meaning and a deeper message to the world that, hey, listen, we are a part of nature, so let's just blend in rather than just stick out and just kill it all. And we are on that path. And you have written about 12 to 13, co-authored 12 to 13 books on similar topics to make people aware of where we are. What do you think? Where are we today in terms of sustainability, environment? Where are we heading? What's the news for the world, really, in your experience and in all your travels?
Oh, that's a tough question to answer, I think, because it's a good question, and it's super relevant, but it's also a very complicated question. I mean, because there are so many good things at the moment, people working hard, organizations working hard, and for the first time in history, we are our conversation here, our e-meeting is proof of that. Is that we are more connected, we can communicate, we are in these days also forced to communicate this way, but it's also an incredible opportunity to spread important information, to share important information. And we have enough science, we have a lot of innovative power. And at the same time, coming back to the 7.8 billion people, we also put unprecedented pressure on our planet, which means that since nature is not responding linearly to our affluent lifestyles, especially in many parts of the world, nature is sending invoices back into our economy. which is a scary situation. And the pandemic that we right now are suffering is actually one of those invoices, because it's a zoonosis. So when we destabilize nature, when we deforest too aggressively, when we trade with wild animals too aggressively, when we are pushing ecosystems to the brink and we approach wild animal species with domestic animal species, this is when the zoonosis comes into our world. And they're there already, but that's when they come into our world and is sort of unleashed. So to me, the only safe path ahead is really that we continue very, very hard and very stubbornly to prove that sustainability is not a sacrifice. Being more increasingly green when it comes to circular economy, etc., it's not a sacrifice. It's truly the only path ahead to safeguard a future for all.
Absolutely, absolutely. Tough times, but let's see, because with the rise of, say, fossil fuels, our own diet, the way we eat,
Yes.
all those habits have to be changed, and of course we have to plant as much as we can. And I think where you come from, Sweden, it is one of the most eco-friendly nations, I would say, in the world, the Scandinavian belt, and we must take inspiration from that. Um, my next question would be, tell us a bit about your travels to India, a little more, throw some more light about your travels, especially to Gir forest in Gujarat.
Yeah.
How was the
Yeah.
experience with that? Since you worked a lot in Africa with the lions, tell us more about the Gir forest experiences.
Well, to a lot of people, and I'm not talking about people in India, because a lot of people in India obviously are aware that the lions of Ashoka, the lions of Gir, are very important for the Indian communities as a symbol of power, of elegance and royalty in a way. But to most people elsewhere in the world, people think of tigers if you talk about India, or leopards or something else. And you talk about lions, you think of Africa. So I got this assignment from National Geographic to, for 3 months, day and night, walk in the Gir forest with a very, very talented and knowledgeable local man that really knew his way around this teak forest. And so I managed to get, thanks to him and thanks to our collaboration, really, really close to these majestic animals that is, as if you're not aware, since this is also an international audience that we hopefully have today, you and I, we can also explain that these are not the same lions as in Africa. They are genetically separated from the African lions. So they are separated, and these are the lions of our Christian civilization, or the Christian belief, the Bible actually as well, because during the time of Jesus Christ, these lions roamed from Italy and Greece and through parts of Europe, even and all the way to Iraq and Iran. And so they look differently as well. They don't have the same big mane as the African cousins. They have big elbow tufts. They have a belly fringe like the now extinct Burberry lion. So anyway, they're just amazing. So I had the great, great privilege of doing a cover story for National Geographic about these just incredible creatures.
And the upside down lioness, where was that shot? Will you tell us about that?
Yes. That was actually absolutely lovely. As I said, I crawled around. I was sneaking around in the Gir National Park for 3 months, day and night, and then at one point we had gradually habituated a female with her cubs that knew that we weren't hostile, and we could manage to be pretty close to her. So she was relaxed, comfortable, and I could just sit very close to her and work. And then again, as a gift from nature, as a gift from Gir and India and the lions, she, in a beautiful light, she called her cubs. She rolled over on her stomach, and she put herself in a very vulnerable, beautiful position. And one of her cubs came up and leaned the cub's little head onto his mother's throat in a way, and it just made a beautiful moment. It just lasted for a second, but it was enough for me to create this cover frame that then told a story about this marvelous creature.
Beautiful. It's a fantastic shot. It's one of my favorites for now.
Thank you.
Now coming more to the technical aspect of your profession, really, which is equipment, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you've heard of FW Champion. He sort of invented the tripwire photography. He pioneered that while he was posted right here in Nainital, contemporary of Jim Corbett. And
Yes.
thanks to him, Jim Corbett took to shooting from the camera rather than the gun. So that invention happened in the early 1900s. And now I think, of course, with digitization, the equipment is much more sort of, high tech, easy to operate, a lot of technicalities, of course. But tell me, is there not for a photographer of your stature, of course, not a Nat Geo photographer, but in the larger context of the so-called photographers, is it somehow the art is somehow diluted with the digital technology coming in, with photoshopping happening all over the place?
Well, I don't really think so. I think it has increased, I think, the interest for photography in general, and also the fact that people use their cell phones, smartphones, to take pictures. I think it has exploded so that people all over the world can actually afford to take pictures. It doesn't make all of us photographers. It doesn't mean that it's like I'm not a 3-star Guide Michelin chef, even if I cook every day. So it's the same with photography. You can take pictures, but it's a different thing being a professional photographer. So I don't think it's necessarily has diluted it, but it has created perhaps more layers. So you have professional photographers, and then you have semi-professional photographers, and then you have myriad of other people taking pictures, and sometimes even an amateur, of course, and with a smartphone can take a magnificent photograph. And even I'm not a good chef, but I sometimes can nail a really good pasta, and my kids say, "Dad, that was actually very good." It doesn't make me Paul Bocuse. So, so it's really just, I think it's a good thing because it has become very accessible. And what is photography? Well, it's something you do to capture memories, moments, your children, your friends, your whatever it is, something you see. And but then when it comes to the field of documentary photography, you came into the issue of photoshopping. Of course, if you are proud and you become a professional documentary photographer, you might not want to, of course, change things in a way that will take out your trustworthiness, the authenticity. Because let's say you work for National Geographic and you do that, you're out, you're fired. So it really depends which world you're in and why you take your pictures and for whom.
Yeah. Also, what sort of rules, a set of rules or values that have you sort of carved out for yourself while you're at work in the wild, really? Because when I'm going out birding here up in the Himalayas, you'll see a bunch of photographers all in their cameos and long lenses and all, but when they'll see a pheasant, a male pheasant, they'll start calling, So it's like artificial stimulation for the bird. Now, well, technically it's wrong, but what's wrong with it?
Yeah.
So, what are your do's and don'ts when you're out in the wild shooting?
Yeah. Well, that is, I think, there is different principles, of course. I mean, I would, the bottom line is, which should be completely, it should go, I mean, it should be obvious to each and all that should never, ever hurt an animal or change things in nature that would, be hazardous to the health of the living beings that you're there to photograph. But unfortunately, that's not always the case. A lot of people get so stressed and eager to take a photograph that they go around in vehicles and they stress and press and put pressure on animals just to get that shot. And to me, that is not okay. However, let's say you took the example of the male pheasant, and if you can whistle to get the pheasant to walk your way, it's not as bad perhaps as doing many other things. But again, if you have 2,000 photographers whistling every day, it can be pretty confusing. It's like being being a beautiful person on the street and you get whistled at every day. It's perhaps very stressful too. But I know I think it's I think it has, you have to have, to me it becomes very clear. I am there to try to do something good. I'm there to try to elevate the awareness, to show something that is fragile, vulnerable, that needs our human attention to survive. So if I would make it more difficult for that species or for that ecosystem or for that ethnic community of minority to lead good lives by being there, I would have failed. So to me, there's a code that's pretty firm. But that's something that I always strive to do the right thing.
How was your experience in Ladakh? You did a story there in the monasteries of Ladakh. Or what was it like? I've never been to Ladakh ever.
Oh, that you must go. It's whenever that's possible again. But no, I really loved it so much. It was a spiritual journey as much as a geographical one. I remember I had been there and I had done a recce reconnaissance trip up in beautiful Ladakh. And one night I was sitting with my guide / interpreter talking about things. We talked about, beautiful places and, things that you could dream of doing, but has never ever been done. And I said, do you know about any place, if you could send me someplace and drop me someplace where I could take pictures, that would be very, very unusual. And when we started talk about it, and then we found a place in a valley that had never been photographed, actually, or hadn't been photographed for many years at least. It was in a valley, and I started immediately as I returned back to Sweden to apply for a permission to go there, and it was rejected. Because it was a buffer zone for military reasons. Yes. but also it had, for many reasons, it was impossible. But thanks to His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and thanks to the kind help from the ambassador to India in Sweden at that time, Ambassador Chitra Narayanan,
Yes.
we managed to get a green light to do this assignment, far, far, far from everything, into a world that had been encapsulated in time. It was like a time warp. And I remember Ambassador Narayanan, she made a phone call when I was sitting opposite her in her beautiful office in Stockholm. And she said, I have this photographer opposite me, she said on the phone. And she said, it's a very unusual request I'm having, but I need this photographer to be able to go all the way into, and she said, yeah, I know it's impossible. Yes, I know. Yes, I know. Well, but thank you very much. And she hung up. And then she said, sometimes it's convenient to have a father that is the president of India. So she she managed through her incredible connections and kind help, helped me to get into this remote and absolutely amazing world. So it was one of the most special projects I've ever done.
Wonderful. I think apart from your talent, which is just brilliant, as I say, the mindfulness that you carry with you in your work, and you're so conscious about what you do. You're conscious about every little movement, every little leaf, every little, wisp of the air or the smell, which comes from a very trained mind, a meditative mind. And that's what you are. At least that's what I perceive you to be. So your last parting thoughts, any message that you would like to sort of impart to the world at large through this medium, really?
Well, first of all, thank you so much. It has been a joy talking to you. And I also look forward to reading your book on Mahatma Gandhi. I can't wait to do that. But I also want to say that it's a time that can be tough on all of us, but it's also an incredible opportunity to choose a more holistic, more sustainable and friendly path, more compassionate path. And I think that it goes without saying that we need to embark on a new journey that is more sustainable, but that doesn't take away all the pleasures. It's sometimes I meet people saying that, oh, that's too bad. I have to be more green. I have to be more sustainable. That means I cannot do this. It's not true. Today, there are so many alternatives, and by being creative and open-minded, and I think that is, again, coming back to the COVID-19 situation, it's really an eye-opener for all of us, is that, yes, it's tough, but life goes on. And there are great perks in reflecting on that, cherishing what we have, and really taking care of each other and nature that is the prerequisite for our journey ahead.
Wonderful, wonderful. Mattias, Klum, thank you so much for this wonderful interaction.
Thank you very much.
Hope to see you soon in person.
Likewise.
Over to you, Sanjoy. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Mattias. Thank you, Janhavi, for that beautiful conversation. Thank you all for watching and being such a lovely audience. Please log back on for our next session, Singing in the Dark, K. Sachidanandan and Nishi Chawla in conversation with Mohini Gupta.